It's episode 18 of Chit Chat, and we have Marvel on the brain. Marvel board games, to be specific. But those aren't the only board games we've played in the last couple of weeks. Oh yeah, and we're going to have a big, long conversation about Infinity War. Welcome back. This is episode 18 of Chit Chat. 18, that means...
That's not your lucky number.
It's definitely not my lucky number. But we can vote anyway. Today we're going to talk about Marvel.
I just got that.
Jeremy's really quick on the uptake. We're going to talk about Marvel for one main reason. It's because we just saw Infinity War last week. We are going to talk about the movie just a little bit.
At the end.
It might be a little spoilery. So if you haven't seen it, watch all the way until we give you a giant spoiler alert, and then you can tune out. But we're going to talk about board games too. We're going to talk about Marvel's impact on board games over the years, maybe some games we'd like to see with the Marvel spin on it. We've played Thanos Rising recently, so it's kind of on our minds. So that's what we're going to be talking tonight. We've got Ryan, we've got Gary, myself, and Jeremy as always. So let's dive right into it. Let's talk about Marvel games.
Well, before we get there, let's talk about our winners.
I always forget.
Yeah, so speaking of Marvel, we have another Thanos Rising to give away, so make sure you guys make comments below, and you'll be entered automatically to win another copy.
Yeah.
Winners, though, we have Brent Williams, who won Pulsar 2849, so make sure you guys contact us, and Matthew Wright won the Flow of History Deluxe Edition.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So congratulations.
Great games, yeah.
Either reach out to us or we'll reach out to you and we'll figure out how to get it to you.
Probably reach out to us.
Yeah, that's probably
Just saying it.
That's the easiest
if
way.
you want your game, reach out to us. All right, so let's talk about Marvel games. Who wants to start?
I mean, I'll start.
You go.
I'll start because I love Marvel games. I've loved Marvel games since I was a kid, and it's just cool for me to have seen like the changes in these games. And I know we've talked about intellectual property on the show before, but I remember being a kid in the '90s playing. I think it was just called Marvel Superheroes.
What's that? Yeah, I'm not familiar.
It was
with
just
this
like
game.
the most basic roll, move, take a card. I mean, that was really.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it does sound awful.
That sounds like a '90s intellectual property.
Sure.
Game, but when I was a kid, it was just the best because you've got these cards and you're not building a tableau, but you're putting them out in front of you, all the different superheroes and stuff. And
Well, I think that's what
ultimately
makes
it's not a great
well, that's
game.
what makes superhero games cool. Is because you get to embody all those people that you read in comics or you've watched in the movies.
Yeah, it's like guided play. You know, you can take action figures and go like this, or you can do something like this and feel like there's some reason to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's the games. Marvel has changed the games a lot. Since
It's
that
funny
time.
you say this because like I'm older for sure, but some of us we're all older than you. I didn't grow up with any Marvel games. I don't remember in my childhood.
Video games, but not board
video games. I don't
really.
remember games.
Barely
board
even
games.
video games, but yeah, some video games, but no board games. My first introduction was HeroClix, like the Marvel HeroClix, and that was back. When was that? The 90s?
90s.
Yeah.
Late 90s,
Mid late 90s was
Maybe
Marvel
early
HeroClix,
2000s.
and it was one of those things where I mostly collected it, and I didn't set out to collect it. I set out to play it, so I bought it all, but we just barely ever played it. And I have a bag of Marvel HeroClix. In fact, we were going to give that away too, but probably not. I'd have to find it.
Probably worth some money.
They might be worth some money. I have a whole bag full of Marvel HeroClix somewhere, but it was really cool to see like a cool, more enthusiast-style game with a property that we were all familiar with.
And this is probably going to age me, but I was in high school when that game came out, and I just remember everybody.
Age you?
Yeah, age me backwards.
Yeah.
Reveal how young I am. I mean, I was in high school when that game came out, and I remember. I mean, it was huge. Like people were just playing it in the lunchroom, and had our
Yeah, the
little
HeroClix
on our
craze was
tables.
pretty big right then, for sure.
Did any of you? And I never played this. Any of you play the Dice Masters?
I
'Cause that's
did, a
still
little bit.
fairly big.
Yeah.
Didn't Eric Lang
did.
kind of help?
Yeah.
I
design
think
that.
He co-designed it with
Well,
Mike
it
Elliott.
was stemmed from Quarriors, right?
Right.
Which is a great game.
Great game.
Yep.
And Dice Masters was kind of a cool. Dice Masters seemed like a more accessible version of Quarriors.
It was
Quarriors had
super.
some
It
weird
was
rules.
super accessible, but also it had that CCG model, so you had to
Right.
buy packs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you were always chasing the rares and the
Yeah, was that one
legendaries.
of the
Yeah.
first games where you bought packs that actually had dice?
May have been. It was very early.
yeah,
Not
it
really
might have.
close.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember
That was a cool
anything
concept
before.
even
It
in of
was.
itself. You're not just getting cards, but you're getting
Problem
dice.
is when you get
specialized
those,
dice.
the dice are all, the cards are all bent around the dice.
Oh,
So
right.
you didn't really pack them too well.
I don't even
Yeah,
know.
I didn't. Did anyone play much of that?
Oh, I played
I
it.
did.
A
That's
lot
why
of
I
it
was
when-
asking.
When it first came out,
Did ya?
I mean, I played. I had my Marvel HeroClix and Marvel Dice Masters. My buddy had his DC Dice Masters,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd play them back and forth
That's
and see
cool.
who, Marvel won almost every time.
They're still winning.
They're still winning.
I'm not saying,
Right.
in the greater scheme
Very
of things.
thematic.
But
Though-
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Though I would say, I think then after that, I think you start seeing the from Upper Deck, the Legendary series.
Legendary's still huge.
It
and
is, and it's a really good game. It's still
still
very
going.
solid.
It's a great game, but for me, that game is just a nightmare to set up and to tear
Yeah,
down. Like
It
it's,
is.
there's a lot of.
It is
it's
a
not
bit-
easy.
I've never played the
And to
Marvel
tear
version.
down.
I've only played the Aliens version.
If you played the DC,
That was a lot. I had that
Yeah,
years
you had
ago.
that for a little bit.
the DC is really good too.
Oh,
It's a
Yeah.
different system, though,
different-
right?
it's
It's a
Different
different
system.
system, but yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's a different system,
Yeah.
but it's still very
Well,
good
there's actually
too.
Upper Deck's done too. I mean, they did Marvel Legendary, which was huge and is still hugely popular. But we can't forget the Versus system either. That was
that's true.
Yeah.
That was really
I
big
never,
when that
I've
first
never
came
even
out.
looked at that personally.
All those games you mentioned, though, they're kind of like on the periphery of like typical board games. Like
Right.
the dice game is a dice game, dice and card driven game, and then Legendary is a card game. But we haven't really seen any like hardcore board games like built around the Marvel universe that uses a typical board, maybe a worker placement, maybe area
Oh,
control,
like-
Yeah.
maybe something like Descent. I think taking that Marvel
Oh,
universe into
my.
Imperial Assault or
Yeah,
Descent.
that would
That would be
huge.
insane. As much as I've bought Imperial Assault and Descent and hardly played them, I'd probably buy just as much or more of that and hardly play it as well.
I love, like, for a long time, I was so weird that we weren't getting any MCU board games. I mean, MCU's been around, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for 10 years.
That is
and
pretty
Thanos
surprising.
Rising is the first, as
Is
far
it?
as I know, like, official tie-in.
There's had to have
Board
been
game.
maybe some like mainstream mass
Probably.
marketing, like low end board games for
Maybe,
those
like-
things that
like
we
a
just
roll and move
under
or-
our radar.
Sure, there could have been, but I don't...
But Thanos Rising is a good example. It's not quite what you're saying for sure. It's still sort of like a straightforward, sort of family-friendly, approachable game.
Yeah.
Not a real meaty one. But I mean, we all had a lot of fun playing.
I think
it.
it's a
Yeah.
huge step in the right direction
yeah. It's got a
for,
lot of
for intellectual property
of the
games.
same things we enjoy out of some of the co-ops we play. It just has a different route getting there.
Right.
Right, I can't think of a single reason why they haven't come out with like a campaign-driven
Like an Imperial
Avengers
Assault.
game. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
That
Imagine,
seems like a
imagine there has to
huge
be an IP.
untapped
I mean,
market.
with games like Star Wars, you would think that they could
Exactly.
get over that hump, whatever it is preventing.
I mean, it's all Disney now. Disney owns
Maybe
Star
it's
Wars.
the system itself. I mean, Star Wars is pretty linear in the way you think about it. It's blasters and force powers, and that's basically it,
Lights
right?
and darks.
Yeah, when you deal with Marvel, you're dealing with all kinds of different ways that projectiles can be sent out, like how those mechanics would work in an Imperial Assault style game.
Well, they've-
Imagine there's some work to be done
Yeah.
Sure, but I
for
mean,
something like that.
they've kind of gone halfway there with Hero Clicks. Then
true.
also another one that I actually did play a reasonable amount of with my sons was, remember Hero Escape?
Oh yeah.
So there was a Marvel edition of that was its own box, and it was interchangeable with the rest of HeroScape. But there was a Marvel edition that came with a ton of characters. It was the HeroScape system, but it had a bunch of Marvel characters in it, and we played that quite a bit. Again, it's not scenario based and not like campaign driven, but it's kind of like the meat and potatoes of a game like that in terms of tactical, strategic, moving around and fighting each other. So, a Descent style game with Marvel, I'd be there, guaranteed.
We've had a lot of games that did superheroes really well. I mean, you look at Sentinels of the Multiverse, where every hero has their own deck that you're playing through, or Heroes Wanted, where you kind of build your own hero and they'll have special powers and they interact with the board in different ways. I think that's proof of concept that it can be done.
Sure.
I'm
absolutely.
not sure if it's people aren't going after the license or the license is.
Well, I mean, they
too
could even step away
expensive.
from the MC if they have trouble getting the character likenesses,
Just go
right?
with comics.
Just do comics. Yeah, just follow the comic
Much
route.
easier license. Plus, you're not as bound. I mean, the cool thing about comic books and Marvel in particular, since that's what we're talking about, unlike Star Wars even, because Star Wars, we're also used to the storylines in Star Wars, whereas comics, they've been around for so long and they've reset and hit the reset button so often,
Yeah.
you come up with a billion different scenarios. It doesn't matter if one doesn't lead into the other.
Right.
It's just a cool situation where like, oh my gosh, this time we're fighting against this character. It could even be modular. Like you
Yeah.
can set it up in all sorts of different ways.
I mean, that's kind of how Sentinels is.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, you mentioned playing games that are more like Meteor or Euro-y with these licenses. Before someone in the comments points this out, because you will, they did like re-theme Spartacus. Take that board game and put like an X-Men skin on it, basically.
They did?
Yeah, and I can't remember what it was called, like X-Men Brotherhood or something like that.
Interesting.
Where instead of assembling a team of gladiators, you're assembling a team of X-Men.
This is an available game right now?
Yeah, it came out years ago, so I don't know what the availability
That'd be interesting because
is.
all those superheroes would have a special power, whereas
Yeah,
Spartacus, you just have soldiers.
It wasn't as
That'd be
big of a
interesting.
hit maybe as I think they hoped it would be.
Oh, yeah, I
It
guess
certainly
not.
didn't have
Maybe
a
it
ton
was
of staying
broke.
power. I mean, it might have been.
That's
I
interesting.
only played it
Interesting,
one time, but
Yeah.
somebody's going to mention that. I mean, I would love to see more games like that, and I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't.
Well, we've
or
always
shouldn't
talked
have
about
them.
Fantasy Realms too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a game that could pull
Oh,
from the Marvel
yeah,
license.
if it had a Marvel IP on it. Oh, yeah.
a
That'd be
ton of
fun.
stuff.
That'd be super
They did
fun.
do,
Because that
uh,
theme is a little thin, as it is. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a
it's
basic
just
fantasy theme.
right?
They did a Marvel version of Munchkin,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
I'm not the biggest fan of Munchkin for different reasons. It's a little too light, but I do love playing the Marvel Munchkin. Literally, I think just because it's Marvel. I mean, that's it. That's the only reason.
Is there any other genres you guys would want to play with the Marvel license that you could think of?
Like board game genres.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like a hidden deduction.
Yeah,
Well,
well, just
there
stepping-
is a social deduction game coming out that I just read about.
Oh, yeah, Hail Hydra?
Yeah, Hail Hydra,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
some of the players at the table are secretly working
haven't heard
for
about
Hydra.
this.
Yeah, the box is amazing looking, and
There's like no.
all I saw was the box. I didn't see who's publishing it
No,
or
I have
anything
no idea.
like that.
It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Made me think that someone had just made
That's right.
this
There is
box
no
up.
publisher on the box, too.
No.
'Cause everybody's looking like, what is this?
Oh, dude, it's
think-
really cool looking
It
box.
does look really cool.
You know, kind of like a War of the Ring type game, because you could have each side,
Like a giant battle ongoing.
yeah, giant area control type battle, because you could have special powers. They have special powers, and trying to work that. I could see that, Worker placement. I'm sitting here trying
It's
to
hard
think.
to think.
That's
Yeah, I was
hard
trying
to
to think
think,
that
except for
too.
maybe if something like a Marco Polo. You got special. You're gonna have to have special player powers. But how you would work that in?
Yeah.
Are you trying to conquer something? Is it kind of a co-opetition type game? You're trying to help each other, but you want to be the one person that whatever.
It
strikes down Thanos.
It's unfortunate that Civil War is already behind us in the MCU because Civil War as a theme could probably lend itself because then like a two-player game, imagine a two-player game where you're competing over recruiting heroes onto your side of that fight.
Can you imagine
Oh.
that with Secret Wars?
Right. Oh yeah, Secret Wars also
Could lend
lends
itself
itself,
really well,
or Secret
too.
Invasion to like a social deduction game
Yep.
where you're
Yeah.
figuring out who's
Who's
role and
who.
who's not.
Yeah,
I think
we're talking super nerdy right
we
now.
are talking
For you guys that
Totally
don't know.
nerdy.
Well, I think like Marvel has this just untapped well of lore, basically.
And that's
all
the
these
problem.
cool locations,
Right. You don't know where to go with it.
Cool factions, cool characters. I mean, anything that's like area control, where you're controlling these control the Savage Land, or control New York, or control the West Coast Avengers. Like whatever.
It's amazing that no one has tapped it. Like it is completely untapped. You feel like you could look at Star Wars as an IP or Lord of the Rings, and they have dozens and dozens of new games every year, and more games coming out. Like from all kinds of varieties, from Imperial Assault to X-Wing to Armada to everything you can imagine, right? But you have not a whole lot of stuff for Marvel, and it's a huge opportunity for publishers to dive in and say, we got a good idea about a game. Let's create something that pulls
Yeah.
from these characters.
And I remember so board games aside, one of the thing that really shined for me as a kid in Marvel was playing the Marvel Heroic role-playing game, which was really cool in that you literally could step into the shoes of any comic book hero, really any Marvel hero, and play with this role-playing game. But even that game is not around anymore.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, as our resident role player, if there had ever been a Marvel one,
There
because
had,
that
it
would
was,
be
and it was
sweet.
amazing. It was fantastic. But now it's kind of a holy grail for a lot of
Really?
people, considering it was probably still one of the
So
best.
it'll be
superhero
compared to
role-playing
that.
games. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Is there a good current superhero role-playing system?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of really good ones. Mutants and Masterminds.
Is that like the-
Is I think maybe the pinnacle of superhero role playing. But Sentinels of the Multiverse just launched their role playing. Now that is kind of you're in that world playing with those characters. But superhero role playing games do exist, and you could always reskin them in
Sure.
with Marvel characters.
I wonder if this is something from the top down, like if Marvel's just doesn't have a department that's really built into creating board games or that kind of
I'd like to
entertainment,
think- I mean, I do know, I happen to know that Marvel historically, I don't know if they anymore, but Marvel historically has made licensing a bit of a challenge because
I've heard the same thing.
even for the smallest, weirdest little product that someone's not going to make a lot of money on, way back in the day, this is before Marvel was owned by Disney or any of that. Marvel would say, okay, but ask for a ridiculous amount of money. So I think it's probably taken some time to get away from that. And of course, now that Disney's involved, Disney's very adept at obviously licensing and doing products. So maybe that's why we're seeing more and more of these things.
Yeah.
I'd love to see, when you were talking about Lord of the Rings and stuff, can you imagine a good one versus many game where like someone's Thanos and the rest of us are the heroes and maybe there's hidden information about where all the Infinity Stones are. So you're all trying to gather information. Thanos knows some stuff. You know some. That'd be awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
It's
doubt.
untapped
Yeah,
well.
there's no lack of ideas out there
like,
for that kind of stuff.
Even if you look on BGG, there's like 10 Marvel board games ever made. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like how that's, and I think you're right. I've heard that same thing about Marvel, that when they license, their whole licensing structure is built on toys and video games, which historically make a ton of, you're going to make a ton of money on toys.
Yeah, I think they were used to getting lots of money for certain categories, and then when these smaller categories come up where there's not as much money to be made, they just kind of blanketly, because a lot of this falls to lawyers and stuff, so they just look at stuff and go, oh yeah, well we got $1 million over here, we need $1 million for this, for a product that might make $10,000.
Right.
Lawyers. If we missed something, guys, let us know in the comments below. I'm sure we missed a big game. Maybe maybe we did, maybe we didn't. I don't know.
Just so we know. I want to know them
And
all.
if there's a game that you would like to see brought into the Marvel Universe, let us know as well. Let's start talking about the games that we've been playing in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is our intermission, by the way. We're going to be talking about games we played. And then we're going to come back and have some spoilers on the movie and talk about our thoughts on the movie. Yeah. So what have we been playing, Ryan?
A lot of stuff. Well, we're going to talk about it, I'm sure. We played Forbidden City, the three of us, which was, I love it. I talked about Hansa Teutonica last week as one of my hidden gems. Same designer, so that was kind of coincidental. I've loved every game I've played by him, so this was no surprise for me. And I finally got a chance to try Steamrollers, which is another another roll and write.
Did you back that, or
no? I didn't. A friend of mine backed it, brought it, and we tried it. Wasn't as exciting for me as some of the other roll and writes that I've played, but I'm glad I got to try it and have that experience.
Roll and writes
There's a
seem
movement.
to be blowing up this year. I mean, they've
really
been
are.
around, but like we've played a lot of really good ones with Welcome to a few weeks ago, and then a lot of new ones.
Yeah, I'll go next. Oh, you have another one?
Well, no, I know there was like a little inside joke going on in the industry where it's like when one designer would run into another, they'd ask, so which roll and write are you working on? And I think we're seeing the fruits of that this year as they're all starting to come out.
Yeah, I mean, the games I've been playing at Forbidden City with you guys, if you guys haven't checked out the Kickstarter campaign, go check it out. It's incredible. Great value. $66 to get Deluxe Edition.
Yeah, we don't usually
really cool.
like push Kickstarters.
Yeah.
This game,
It's a fantastic
take
game.
a look at the Kickstarter page and make a judgment on your own.
Yeah.
But the value of what you're getting on that thing is ridiculous.
Yeah. Played Prowlers Passage from Renegade, and I didn't have expectations for this game at all, but it's really fun. It's kind of abstract. You're playing thieves in this district, and you're going around and you're simply placing like a fence token, so to speak, in an area, and then taking a token and then collecting those tokens. One of the cool things is the more tokens you collect, the more victory points you get, and there's 2 scoring rounds, and it's completely player controlled on how those scoring rounds happen. It's a really fun game, and it's super quick. It's 30 minutes in and out. And the last one was, I'm going to try to pronounce this, and I'm sure.
Drum roll, please.
I know, right?
You worked on it.
Ganz Schoon Cleaver, right? Did I get it
Sounds
right?
good to me.
I think so.
It could be wrong. It means
I don't speak German, but sound good.
It means quite clever in English. It's another roll and write, and this one's from Wolfgang War. She also did Knockmaul and a variety of others. I think this guy comes out with 1 or 2 roll and writes every year. This is super cool because it has a lot of combos. So we played this game, and the more you progress in the game, the more combos you're doing from these 5 different locations. You have 5 colored dice that allow you to do specific things with different areas on your player board. It's really fun.
What's cool too is those combos kind of like build over the game. You won't have a combo in the first round, maybe even the second, but all of a sudden when they start firing off, you see, oh, I can combo this into this and this into this, and then you start to achieve more and more on your paper.
And I'm not a roll and write fan at all, but this and Welcome to, really good games, like really, really good games.
So to carry on the roll and write theme here, Knockmaul, we've all played. I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder, but I've played Knockmaul. I made my own copy. I think we talked about that last week too. Played more of that. I really like it, although I will say we had experience when we played. Depending on player count, you might have different experience. You can't let one player go in one direction on their page where everyone else is going in the other direction, because that player's just going to sit there and score points
Yeah.
by
Yeah,
themselves.
we weren't
So
really looking at each other's sheets.
there's more
Yeah.
of a competition going on there than you might think, because a lot of roll and writes people think you don't really pay attention to
Right.
what else is going on. You just
Right.
do your own thing.
Right.
But you kind of have to pay a little bit of attention, I think, in Knockmall. Another great roll and write.
It is good. It is very good.
I backed Fleet of the Dice game, which is another roll and write. And that's it's going to be more on the heavier, more complex thing, because you're starting to see these more complex ones, like the Castles of Burgundy roll and write.
Have you played that
The
yet?
dice game, kinda, because it's a little
sounds
more
promising.
complex. It was fun. It's just a little more complex. You just got to think a whole lot more. But the Fleet the Dice game looks pretty cool. I mean, you're going out in your ships, and you got ship dice, and you're going to get your fish, and you got to bring it back to harbor and that kind of stuff. So I did that. I also ordered Genshin Cleaver.
Yeah.
You probably said it better than me. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. But I did play Bloodborne, that expansion.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So very cool. Now you actually get everybody gets a player power.
Oh, that's
And
I'm on board
if
with
you
that.
if you've ever played Bloodborne, you know when you defeat a monster, if you're part of the defeat or part of killing that monster, you move out, you get some trophies, and you move out a trophy. Now you can play it to where there's tokens at the other end, and as you kill, they come closer, so you get to the point to where you can't go any further. So you're kind of
Oh, that's
managing how you want. Like, ooh, I don't know if I want to kill this guy. Maybe I'll just kind of back out of this one because I want to make sure I get maximum
That's
points.
really
So
interesting.
it totally added a whole lot and added more monsters and stuff. So super fun. Yeah,
It's a good
really
game.
good.
It's a good
We
game.
also played, I don't know if we talked about this last time, we played Imaginarium.
Yeah.
Which we're going to have a
yeah.
review
We'll
on
play
that out very soon.
Mm-hmm.
This game is the most bonkers looking game you've ever seen graphic design wise. I think we have the
That is-
box up
yeah.
here. If you can see, there's a weird factory on the back of an elephant, and there's a pig with wings on that elephant as well. So
Makes
there,
sense.
there are the craziest looking cards where these like creatures like a baboon smoking a pipe looks like Sherlock Holmes. I mean, it's really strange. And the gameplay is phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
a nice
it's
engine
smart.
builder with incredible graphic design and production quality. So I wanted to
Awesome.
mention that for sure.
Yeah. By Bruno Catala, too.
Yes,
Did he say
by,
that?
by
Oh.
Bruno Catala. It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite designers. Although, if I played that game, I wouldn't think, is this Bruno Catala? I don't know why I feel that way, but
he's not really known for engine builders.
not really, right? Yeah.
But
so
it's
that's
good.
That's what we've been playing. So, is everyone ready?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the movie, but
Spoiler
we're gonna talk it, probably not total spoilers. We're probably going to dance, though, with some spoilers.
Yeah.
So be prepared.
You can't talk about it without spoiling
We're
some
going to
stuff.
talk a lot about the movies. We won't blatantly spoil it harshly, but we'll probably go there. So you've been warned. Infinity War. Let's first start. Did you like it?
Loved it.
It's my favorite. It's number one on my list now.
Number one.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I would
Right
I-
over Winter Soldier.
I loved it. I've seen it twice. I'm probably going to see it a third time. It's in IMAX here. I kind of want to go see it in IMAX because I've heard
in
this is one of the-
3D.
Is it in
No,
3D?
it's not in 3D there.
I don't like.
Oh,
I'm
it's
not.
not?
I'm not a 3D guy.
Not this
But I heard this is one of the first movies that's been completely shot in IMAX, not
Yeah.
just
Yeah, we
portions
need
of
to
it.
make plans to go see that.
So I would definitely want to go see that again. Number one, it might be. I would say that it's probably in my top 3 for sure, but I don't know where
That's
that
where I'm
is.
sitting at.
Yeah.
Too.
You know, I think Winter Soldier is the best movie of
you-
all of them.
Oh,
in
in
just
and of
terms
itself?
of just in of itself. But I mean, this has been a 10-year hype to get to this movie, and I think they just nailed it. It as much as they had to put in, I think they killed it with giving everybody good balance on making sure they got enough in there, and they told a great story.
Yeah, I would say if you look at this movie, it has a lot in it, and they have to give lots of people small chunks of time. So for the uninitiated, it might feel a little overwhelming, and some people might knock it for that a little bit. But like you just said, when you consider what they had to achieve in this movie, they did a damn good job of
Well,
covering
we didn't
that.
get to Jeremy's rating.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I like it. I don't like it as much as Incredible Hulk, the original.
Oh, the Ang Lee one? Yeah, the Ang Lee Incredible Hulk.
Pretty
is
amazing.
just
No,
fantastic.
I like it a lot. It's good. I felt like the middle of the movie was a little bit slow at times.
Yeah, you said that right after we watched it.
Yeah, I still feel that way, but I feel like the first 45 minutes were like the best superhero, maybe outside of the airport scene in
Yeah,
Civil War, which still is pretty awesome.
It's hard to beat that.
It is hard to beat that, but that whole, when they first appear in New York and that whole vibe you get that they're a real threat this time to these characters, it was just It was good. It was really well done. The fight scenes were really well done. Showing, I mean, I'm not really spoiling much, but showing
Go ahead.
the power of Thanos beating up the Hulk, like in the first 10
Yeah.
minutes. I mean, you started to feel, even with one Infinity Stone that he was pretty invulnerable, right?
Right.
So there was a real threat and dread throughout the entire movie. I did feel like it dragged when you got to Thor's section and they go off to reforge his weapon and those kind of sections. But
I enjoyed that part.
I did.
I
I did.
enjoyed
It's
that
not that I
part,
didn't
yeah.
enjoy it, but I just didn't feel like it was cohesive. Like from beginning to end, it was super exciting.
I can
all the
Plus,
see
way.
compared to
that
the
point.
other sections,
Yeah.
Well,
It's-
yeah,
yeah,
that first
any-
45 minutes, like you said,
Anytime
is
when they're not
killer.
fighting,
yeah,
it
it's,
feels a little
it's all
duller.
relative because that section in most other movies would be very good and entertaining.
Yeah.
In this movie, that first 45 minutes and then the last 45 minutes are ridiculous bookends.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing too is like we saw this in other movies. The moment that you see all of these characters, not just on screen together, but working together, like that
Yeah.
cohesive bond that they have, fighting one or two different villains, it's really cool to see. Like them using each other's abilities to power things. So it's
Well,
really
even when
neat.
they're on Titan and they're fighting Thanos,
Yeah.
you know, and Doctor Strange doing his thing, and Iron Man's doing his thing, and Guardians are. I mean, it was just like you said, you're getting to see their full powers, but they're all working almost in unison. It just
Oh,
looks so cool.
No, it was awesome to see. Well, not only how they work together in the fighting, but just the personalities.
Oh.
Like right from the very beginning, seeing Doctor Strange and
with Iron Man?
Tony Stark interact with each other. Where I mean, because if you saw Doctor Strange, he's kind of a jerk too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In the first movie, but in this movie, he definitely seemed
in control.
He seemed in control,
He knew-
and he seemed very self-aware that he had been a jerk, and he's not really any longer a jerk. But he had no patience for Tony
Well,
Stark.
I think he
no
knows.
respect
I think
for
he
Tony
sees.
Stark
No, I don't think
either.
he doesn't have respect. I think he just knows the gravity of the situation. Like he's not ready. Tony always has that kind of like that lib to him, where he's ready just to mouth off, but whatever. Doctor Strange knows what's coming. Like he understands the gravity and what could happen to the entire universe.
Right.
So at that point, he's just like,
So, well, speaking of that, because I'm not sure if this is my number one or not, but it's probably my favorite scene of the entire Marvel
MCU?
Cinematic Universe across all the movies is when Thor meets the Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time.
Yeah.
And like Star-Lord is super jealous of like
the
of
humor.
Thor. That was just
So the cool thing about this, if you're a fan,
amazing.
if you're a fan of the MCU and you haven't seen this movie, I'm not sure what's wrong with you and why you're listening to this. But if that's the case, the fact that they're able to weave all of the different vibes of the different movies, because Guardians of the Galaxy is a totally different feeling type of movie, and this movie bounces around in those respects quite a bit. Like as soon, one of my favorite parts of this movie, in a weird way, as soon as it cut and it said space, and you started hearing Rubber Band Man music come in, before you even saw it, you knew for a fact we were headed towards Guardians territory. And I've even seen some interviews after the fact with the Russo brothers, the directors. They're talking about they used handheld cameras in some of those scenes where they don't use it in other scenes at all, to pull some of that, make it a little bit more cohesive between the different filming styles of the different movies.
right, yeah.
Because they've had different directors and they felt very differently.
they're geniuses basically
Yeah.
to pull this all together. I mean, every segment, you could still tell. Oh, now we're cutting to a Wakanda segment. Now we're cutting to a Guardian segment. But it felt like you were watching the movie that segment came from. Like all the Captain America scenes felt like it could have been Winter Soldier or Civil War. Like it really tied together.
Well, should we give a prediction on what we think is going to happen in the next one then?
I
Yeah,
think
let's-
so.
So we gave you a spoiler warning. Now we're going to give you a super serious spoiler
Should
warning.
half of us leave?
So turn this off now if you don't want to say anything, because I'm about to say something hugely spoilery. Half the people die. So
Yep.
or go away. So at
Right.
the end of the movie,
Dusted.
Thanos snaps his fingers, and there's some deaths along the way, obviously, for sure. But he snaps his fingers. Half the people go away. So what's our theory? Let's talk about our theories really briefly.
Well, what's interesting is who is still alive.
Yeah, the OG.
Is the
OG
four
Avengers.
originals. Yeah.
I think some of those
Well,
will
and some
flip.
other people.
And if right.
I mean, to give this whole
they
thing
survived,
some
yeah.
true weight, some people have to stay dead that have already died, and
Yep.
some of the people that are still alive have to die. And
Yes.
I think we're gonna see Captain America and Iron Man die. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they have to.
I think
Yeah.
I definitely
so too.
agree with you for sure on Iron Man.
Yeah.
I really believe part of the reason why Doctor Strange went against everything he said throughout the whole movie and gave up the time stone, which he said he absolutely wouldn't do, is because that 1 in 14 million version of winning involved Tony in some way, shape, or form. So he knew he had to save Tony, or else that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what was going on there, and I think it would be incredibly poetic, obviously, if in the next one, Tony ended up giving up his life in an effort to get some of those people back.
That's been the whole
theme.
plot. The whole theme of the MCU really has been. It all started with Tony and Iron Man, and even the first Avengers was. Since then, he's carried this burden of like knowing he's probably going to have to die to save the world. So it would be kind of neat to actually see that.
Well, plus this movie had a massive theme of sacrifice. I mean, almost every character was faced with some form of even Thanos in a way.
Yeah.
He obviously had some form of love for Gamora. I'm not sure what form of love it was, but
Very
he had
twisted form.
And he was genuinely hurt in a small way when he sacrificed Gamora.
But you could see, it was weird that they almost made Thanos like relatable to a certain.
I
point.
was.
Well,
That
I
was
could sympathize with him for sure.
That was the most
Absolutely.
surprising thing of the movie, is that they did such an amazing job with Thanos and making him feel like, wow, this is a really
I
interesting
do think it's
villain.
interesting that the people that lived, you said the original 4, and the people that died are all the people that currently have movies like Black Panther and
still movies that come
Spider-Man
out.
and Doctor Strange, with movies that will be coming out in the future. So these people have to come back. So I do think
Right.
that we're going to see a flip.
I mean,
That a lot of those characters that lived will die, and a lot of people that died will come back and
The
live.
trick is going to be for
How
the
does it
filmmakers,
happen?
not only how does it happen, but how do they pull that off without making it seem lame and erasing all of the stakes that were set in this movie?
Well, there's
like
two
if they
ways.
just turn the time back and
Yeah.
everyone's back.
I don't think they're gonna. I really don't think they're gonna do that.
They could do
don't either.
multiverse, or they could do time travel.
I don't think
One of the
I
two
read
things.
I was following this really interesting theory that makes me believe that this might be how they tackle it. So if you don't want to know the theory or spoilers, don't listen to this. But they talk about the soul gem and how Thanos never uses it in the movie. And the theory is that those people that were dusted weren't killed, but that their souls and their being was.
Is that
was
the place
actually,
where Gamora was?
Right, and that's where they are. It's like
Gamora.
within-
He and Gamora were in that reddish area.
Right.
Was
Yeah.
supposedly the soul.
was
gem,
like
or
in
the
like
soul
within
world.
the soul world or whatever, and that all those people that were dusted actually were just sucked into that soul stone, and so they could theoretically use the soul stone to bring all those people back. Which means anybody that died along the way, not when they were dusted, then might just be
Like Loki.
out of that might
I mean,
just
Loki
Yeah.
may be
Just
dead.
maybe-
I would
permanent
guess
death.
that Loki's gone. I would guess that Heimdall's gone.
Gamora.
I think Gamora's gone, but I have an interesting extension on your theory, because I think it would be a brilliant plot device for them to resolve this in the next Infinity War movie, and then for the third Guardians to be something where they're actually returning the Soul Stone to that location in some way, shape, or form in an effort to trade it for Gamora's soul. Because obviously she was the soul that was sacrificed for the Soul Stone, and I wonder if that potentially could work in reverse. It would be, and I only say that because it would be, I can't imagine anyone would like the fact that Gamora's not in the next Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it's a pretty
Well,
significant
nobody's
role.
dead in the comics ever.
True.
And no one except except Ben Parker, whatever his
Ben
name
Parker,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, he's really the only dead person. And Jason Todd, who got beat to death by.
And now we've gone off the rails over to DC now.
Well, I gotta
let's
say
not do
this. So you have the after credit scene, you have to see Captain Marvel.
Yep.
I mean, how much is she gonna just come in and just start whooping up on Thanos?
I think that is
Because
really
that's
closely related.
Yeah, I mean, well, because through the comic series of Marvel, and then on to Captain Marvel. What was the first Marvel? What was his name?
Marvel.
Marvel, yeah. And then Captain, they pounded on him. They kept him. I wonder if that's when he says, "My destiny was thwarted once before."
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that relates
Had to do
back
with
to
Marvel.
Marvel
Yeah,
stopping him,
people
and
have-
Marvel knows all that.
Well,
knows
Marvel
about that.
was the defender of the Infinity Stone,
Yeah, he
so
was
Thanos could
the
never
protector,
move on them
basically.
until he was
Right.
dead.
That's a rumor or a theory too
Right.
that I've looked into. I
She
mean,
may just come back and
because
pound
people
on
have
him.
asked why did Thanos wait so long? Well, I think we're going to find out why
Right.
in Captain Marvel. Because you're right, if Thanos was that strong, then there's no reason he couldn't have just taken the gems 10 years ago.
Right.
But I think there was a reason why he had to wait till this moment.
And I think we'll find out in Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, the Captain Marvel's definitely going to tie this together. Last thing before we sign off here, did everyone see the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer?
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
So I don't think this movie's going to have a ton in it that kind of like.
Well, we know what happens right before Infinity War starts.
It is prior to Infinity War.
I've heard the opposite though.
No, they've
What?
already come out and said it.
No, I think they-
happens
No,
No, I
right
mean I've
before.
heard that the reason it came out after Infinity War because it ties in like
Oh, I see.
in a really way that if
a
you,
significant way.
in a significant way that if you had seen this movie first, it would have completely ruined Infinity War for you.
So if that's the case, I would say that quantum realm, is that what they call it? That they go into
yeah, like the microverse.
the microverse, that might have something to do with it. And this is a little spoilery for even the next Infinity War. There has been set photos. Ant-Man definitely looks like he plays a far more significant role in the next.
Well, you have to
Avengers
because he wasn't
movie.
in the first one at all.
Sure.
Or
Well,
maybe
right.
he was and we just didn't see him.
Right.
He was there the
He was
entire
an
time.
ant.
He's just walking around. He's still on Thanos' shoulder.
You never know.
So anyway, if you haven't seen the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer, check it out. It's going to be a nice sort of dose of levity after the harsh film that was Infinity War. Because even though it was great, it was definitely kind of the Empire Strikes Back of the
That's a
Marvel
great
universe.
analogy, actually, because you
Pretty
know,
dark.
when all the Star Wars, we just would theorize what's going to be the next one. We're totally doing that here with
Oh, yeah.
Avengers. It's a lot of fun to do
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely left you wanting more.
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So anyway, thanks for watching again. Remember to comment down below for a chance to win Thanos Rising. And we will see you guys next time. Well, that's another episode of Chit Chat in the Bag. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out another one, there's probably one right over here in the bottom left-hand corner. Or probably your right-hand corner. Whatever corner, we have something to click on. So click on one of these things and good things will happen.